There are a number of things that you could change about how you're exercising to make your workouts more effective, more efficient, and keep you safer. Julie and I are going to be talking about one today that undoubtedly will not only change your experience while you're exercising, but will also change the results you're getting from your workouts. We're going to cue the intro song, and then we're going to jump right into this conversation. Welcome to the Exercise is Health podcast, where we're talking about exercise, health, and the interconnectedness of the two. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we will be coming to you every single week from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Exercise is Health podcast. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we're coming to you from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg in Schaumburg, Illinois. Now, at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, we believe your health is your most valuable asset. Your health is one of the biggest influencers of the quality and quantity of time that you have. And while there are many aspects of health, our expertise is exercise. Exercise has been proven time and again to not only improve your health, but also increase your longevity and improve your quality of life. And if you are looking for a way to receive guidance on how to exercise, to increase your longevity, improve your quality of life, to know that you can be just one workout away from feeling stronger, from functioning better, and from living healthier, then what you need to do is sign up for our next One Workout Away challenge, which is starting so soon. It's starting Sunday, February 14th, 2021. Yeah, we know that's Valentine's Day. Guess what? This is like the perfect Valentine's Day gift that you can give to your significant other, that you can tell your significant other you're getting for yourself, because hey, if you're exercising, you are becoming the best version of yourself. And honestly, what is a better gift than be able to give the best version of yourself? And same goes for your partner. What's a better gift than saying, hey, I want you to be your best version of yourself. Let's do this together. So if you want to learn more and enroll in this upcoming challenge, go to owa.matschaumburg.com. Now, today, what we're talking about is this idea of doing reps for exercise. See, a lot of times when we see a program online, or we see a program in a magazine, or we're following a program on YouTube, the instructor, the author, honestly, the choreographer of the program, they are doing things for a certain number of reps. All right, we're going to do this for 12 reps. We're going to do this 20 times. We're going to do this for 6 reps. But there's a lot of misunderstanding about this idea of actually doing reps versus what we do a lot here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, which is do things for time. And that's what we want to talk with you about today.
You know, I think that the most popular way that people do exercise is 4 reps. You know, usually if especially with online stuff, which is very popular nowadays, it's like, okay, well, how much weight should I do and how many reps? And it's interesting that people ask this because we always think of reps, but we never think about, well, how long did those reps take? So when we think about reps, we also have to then start considering time. Have you ever thought that you could do 10 push-ups that take you 2 minutes to do 10 push-ups? Or you could do 10 push-ups and it takes you 30 seconds to do 10 push-ups. Both, you're getting 10 reps done, but each of them, your body is being exposed to the challenge for a different amount of time. And so because of the different amount of time that your body is being challenged by an exercise, that will actually change what your body is having to do, which then change the opportunity for adaptation or change due to the exercise. So the first thing we need to bring up to you and put in your brain is that if you're thinking about weights, reps, you also need to be thinking about the time for those reps.
Now, I remember when I first started exercising, like everything was about reps. Okay. I remember the very first program that I wrote for myself, everything was 3 sets of 10. 3 sets of 10 was, my standard through high school. And through high school at least. And then once I got into college, I got a little bit more sophisticated. Sometimes I'd do 12 reps, sometimes I'd drop it down to 6. And by the time I got to my senior year of college, I was getting super sophisticated, where some weeks I'd do, 1 or 3 reps, and then other weeks I'd do upwards of 12 or 15 reps. But it was always about reps for me, unless I was doing isometrics. And then it was about time. Now, if you're not familiar with isometrics are exercises where you're not moving. So you can't count reps. And that for whatever reason, when I first started doing it, didn't really draw any flags in my brain. It wasn't like, okay, well, I do these exercises for time and I do these exercises for reps. And for whatever reason, that just kind of seemed what it was. But that, looking back, really should have been a huge flag for me, because even when I first started training people, it was all about counting the reps. Yes, showing them correct form, deciding whatever correct form means. I'm using air quotes with that. But, deciding which exercises they should do. And then naturally, how many reps should I do? Like that, those were the questions, right? Like, all right, what exercise am I going to do? Okay, how much weight am I going to use? Okay, how many reps are we doing it for? Like that was a series of questions that I'd answer for every client for every session. But the reality was, the number of reps really actually didn't matter. And it took me a long time to realize that. So we're hoping to be able to kind of shortcut that process for you today and explain why reps really doesn't matter and why time is actually probably the thing you should be focusing on.
One more little quick backstory that a lot of you probably don't know because you probably haven't tried to get certified as a personal trainer, but I've actually looked at quite a few courses, and so many of the personal training certifications will talk about reps, and actually a lot will like label rep ranges as something like specific. So for example, it's like, okay, for this certification, what we recommend all clients do is to go through phases of first we stabilize and then we correct. By the way, I'm just pulling these out of my brain. I don't remember the exact order, but this is just an example. So first we stabilize, then we correct the form, then we work on endurance, then it's power, then speed, then strength. Some order like that. And all the different labels like power, speed, or strength, they all have like a rep range. Okay, so endurance was, 15 to 17 reps, and then power was 3 reps, and then speed was 1 rep, and then you get what I'm saying here, right? So it's interesting because a lot of training certifications will start labeling rep ranges for maybe what they work on. Another one that we see on social media a lot, it's a lot less in the personal training certification, but maybe in the consumerism of fitness, is, well, I want to lift weights to tone. So what do I need to do? Oh, low weights, high reps. High reps is kind of interesting because it's like, is 15 high reps or is 30 high reps? Is it twice as much? Or is 50 high reps? Like some people are like, well, you got to do 50 crunches every single day to get abs. So you might label reps ranges as something like toning, or it could be bulking or hypertrophy. So we need to do a lot less reps. So anyways, there is a lot of verbiage that goes around these rep ranges. And as Charlie already said, we need to talk about the time component, because every time you're doing a rep, it takes time to do it. The amount of time that you're exposing your body to this stress or this challenge that we call an exercise will dictate or change, again, your opportunity for adaptation or change relative to that time interval.
So what's interesting about the whole reps backstory is reps were actually initially developed as markers of time. Meaning, when people really started lifting weights, and because it mostly has to do with lifting weights, people started lifting weights consistently, it was understood that things needed to be done for a certain amount of time. But it was also understood that at that point in history, nobody had a smartphone where they could just pull up, an interval timer app and be like, okay, 60 seconds starts now and go. Like there might be a clock in the corner of the gym or whatever, but so unless everybody's going to stand by the door by the clock and, do their exercises, it wasn't really feasible to keep time that conveniently. Okay. So what happened? Well, there was a set tempo that was decided upon for that would then become reps, and then reps would then serve as that marker of time. Okay, so that tempo, for example, may be like 2 seconds on the way down, pause for a second, 2 seconds on the way up, pause for a second. Okay, so that takes like 6 seconds to do. And then based off of that, then you could decide, okay, well, 10 reps would be a minute, 12 reps would be however much, 72 seconds, and so on. 5 reps would be 30 seconds. Okay, so you could base it off of that, understanding that the rep equaled the amount of time. Well, that got lost in translation, and that got lost throughout history. And then the focus became about doing the number of reps instead of doing the amount of time that the number of reps was initially supposed to indicate. And then, and so then at that point, everything kind of goes downhill, because if you're focused on doing 10 reps as opposed to 60 seconds, well, then honestly, it really doesn't matter how long it takes you to do the reps, because the goal is the reps as opposed to the time, when initially the whole intention behind designing the rep was not even there to indicate like the number of times your joints move, but rather to indicate the duration of the challenge.
You're right, Charlie. So it's interesting how that's kind of gotten lost over time. But I think now that we all go to the gym with our watches and our phones and all that stuff, we can, start a movement to bring it back. Because again, it's about the amount of exposure that your body has to this challenge. Now, if you've been listening to our podcast for a while, or maybe this is your first one, you should go back and listen to some more, because we've got some great ones. Anyways, if you've been listening to our podcast for a while, you'll hear us interject in many podcasts about how you should be lifting weights. And the way that we always talk about lifting weights, well, one of the ways is about controlling your speed. And when you control your speed, that creates control within your muscle system, which then increases challenge on your muscles, which increases opportunity for change. So a lot of people, after they've listened to our podcast, in their workouts, they start moving a lot slower. So what happens is that if you were doing, for example, the knee extension in your regular way, and then you've been listening to the Exercises Health podcast, and you're like, all right, Julie and Charlie say I need to move really, really slow, be the slowest person in the gym. We're not going to talk about the details of that today, because that's not the topic of our conversation, but please feel free to go back and talk about it. And then anyways, now you're doing the same exercise, the knee extension, but now you're moving really, really slow. And let's say you were doing 10 reps before, and so now you're thinking, oh, I'll keep with my 10 reps because that's what I was doing. Sounds good to me. So when you're changing from going your regular speed now to going really, really slow, you'll notice how much more work your body has to do for those 10 reps, and how much longer time those 10 reps take. Now, when you look at those two exercises, the 10 reps on the knee extension, your old way, and your new Exercises Health way, you'll notice, I don't want you to think that they are equal, because they are not equal, because you're doing the same amount of reps, but likely 10 reps is now going to take you a lot longer. So your time has just increased. Or you could say, hey, I used to do 10 reps. It used to take me 90 seconds to do my 10 reps, and now it takes me 2 minutes. So instead, you could stop counting reps and say, hey, I'm going to keep working this knee extension for 90 seconds. I don't care how many reps I get. Maybe I'll get 4, maybe I'll get 10, maybe I'll get 8. It doesn't matter. You can start changing your exercise so that you're challenging your body relative to time, because that's going to be more of a level playing ground, I guess we could say, when thinking about comparing exercises, rather than saying I'm doing 10 reps of this and 10 reps of that.
You know what I really like about switching the mindset of doing exercises for time instead of doing them for reps is it really allows people to start focusing on what's going on within their body while they're doing the exercise, as opposed to focusing on what's going on outside of their body. All right, so let's go back to that knee extension example that you gave. Look, if you are trying to do, say, 100 pounds for 12 reps, guess what? Your brain is focused on doing that 100 pounds for 12 reps. But if you're focused on doing 100 pounds, but doing it for 60 seconds, now all of a sudden, the whole goal is to challenge your body for those 60 seconds, all right? Which means you get to focus on challenging your body. You get to focus, if you're doing the knee extension, squeezing your quadricep muscles. You get to really focus on what's going on within your body, which is the thing that you're trying to change with exercise, as opposed to focusing on something outside of your body. And like Julie said, this is another one of those topics that we've brought up a number of times on this podcast, so definitely go back through, our library and check out previous episodes. But there are immense benefits from a health perspective, from a results perspective, and from an injury prevention perspective that come from focusing on what's going on within your body while you're doing the exercise, as opposed to focusing on what's going on outside of your body. So I think it seems like it shouldn't be that big of a change saying, oh, I'm going to do an exercise for 60 seconds versus I'm going to do it for 12 reps. But it actually becomes a really big change, especially when you do it consistently, just simply for the fact that it allows you a greater opportunity to shift where your brain is at while you're doing the exercise. It allows you to put your thought and your mindfulness within your body, as opposed to thinking, oh, I got to get these last 3 reps in. It totally changes the game.
Now, if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not so sure if I really believe you that the time, it would be a different experience than the number of reps. So anyways, I've been sitting here brainstorming this beautiful story that I'm about to tell you, and then it's all going to make sense. Okay, so you guys know how we all have smartphones now. So when you want to go somewhere, you put it in the map, right? Like you put the address in somewhere you've never been. And you're like, okay, sweet, 11 miles. It says I'm going to get there at 4:43. Awesome, it's 25 minutes away. So when if you guys don't know, I used to live in Florida. Now I live in the Chicagoland area. That's where MAS is. So in Florida, I always remember, okay, it says I'm going to arrive at 4:43. I'm going to try to arrive there at 4:42 or earlier because, I go just a little bit over the speed limit. I can, do the turns a little faster than what they're predicting.
Plus, it's like, when you put it in a map, or not MapQuest anymore, but when you put it into whatever mapping device you're using, it's like that thing's drawing the line in the sand. It's like throwing down the gauntlet. It's like, okay, this is now your goal. And you're like, oh, I got to hit that.
Exactly. And it wasn't until I moved to the Chicagoland area that it's like that just goes out the window. Like if it says 4:43, you expect to arrive at 4:45 or later. If you're speeding, you're making all the green lights and there's zero traffic. It's just how it works in Chicagoland area. They like sneak traffic in somewhere, or I don't know, there's construction. It just doesn't work here. So anyways, I remember when I first moved here, I was like, oh yeah, I live right outside the city. How many miles is the city away from here? Like 25? 32, roughly. Whatever, 25 miles. Let's just say 25 miles. And I remember the first time Charlie and I went down to the city, I was like, wow, that's so great. 35 minutes, all highway driving. This is sweet. And it was so great. We accomplished those 25 miles to the city and back, 35 minutes there and back. And then one day I thought, that wasn't so bad. There's something cool happening downtown. I'm going to go. And I remember I went at like 3:30 and I pull up on my maps and it was like 25 miles to the city. You will arrive in 2.5 hours. I was like, what? 2.5 hours? How is this possible? It was 35 minutes yesterday, midday, on the weekend in the middle of the day. And so when you have a drive like that, whether it's 25 miles or 100 miles, but a drive that goes from a potentially 35 minutes to do versus 2.5 hours to do, and by the way, no joke, that is like the time span that it could take from here to the city, your experience of that drive drastically changes, right? 35 minutes, you get out of the car, ready to move, maybe a little bit cramped up. But after 2.5 hours, you get out of the car. It's like an emergency restroom situation. I have to move my body. I also feel like I'm mad at everyone else that's on the road. Like the whole situation is different because you didn't change the mileage. You still went 25 miles, but your time experience of that drive is different. That's the exact same thing that happens with exercise. You can do 25 reps of an exercise and have it feel a certain way, and you can do 25 reps of that same exercise and have it feel completely different. And the completely different is often dependent on the time that it takes for you to do it. And when And when you're thinking about the time, you can also change other variables like what are you thinking about? How are you moving? What are your intentions? Are you thinking internal or external? All of which we've talked about in other podcasts. But time is a huge factor that plays into your experience of that exercise, your judgment of that exercise, how your body feels after that exercise, just like that driving length. Like after you drive 25 miles and it takes you 2.5 hours, you're like, yeah, we're never doing that again. But after you do that drive and it's 35 minutes, you're like, yeah, we could do that every day, no problem. So anyways, I hope that analogy helped paint a picture of how something that seems so similar but has a different timestamp to it can completely change your experience of that exercise, which is why, especially if you're scheduled and you're trying to drive, it's better to say, okay, it's going to take me 35 minutes to get downtown today versus it's going to take me 2.5 hours, and not say it's going to take me 25 miles to get downtown.
Exactly. Now, a lot of clients, when they first start working with us at MAS, they're not used to the whole time concept. They want a set number of reps because that's what we're taught from an exercise perspective, whether it's gym class or, working out on our own, like I was saying, stuff we see on social, stuff we read in magazines. But really, the thing that is going to change your body is not the number of repetitions you do, but the duration of the challenge, the amount of time that your body is being challenged, the amount of time that, quite honestly, your body is being stressed. And the stress isn't a bad thing. It's a really good thing in the case of exercise. So here's the thing is, you might be sitting there listening to this. You're like, yeah, no, you know what? I just don't buy it. It's, 8 to 12 reps, that's hypertrophy. And, 3 to 5 reps, that's strength. 1 to 3, that's power. Like that's what I know to be true. And it's not that that's wrong, but it's incomplete. And it's incomplete because it doesn't take into the account how those reps are being done and the speed at which they're being done. Okay. There are a number of changes that happen within your body that require a certain amount of time to a stimulus in order to happen. And if you are disregarding the timepiece, then the changes that you may be trying to make are going to be less likely to happen. So if, again, you're really bought into the reps, it's not a bad thing. It's just an incomplete story. What seems to be right now, in our opinion, a more complete story is looking at things from a time perspective and saying, instead of doing 12 reps, we're going to do it for 60 seconds, for example. So give it a shot the next time you're in a gym. The next time you're going to go work out, or not necessarily even in a gym, you can do it at home. Shoot, you can do this with the MAS at-home workout program. You know how I know that? Because every single workout is done for time there. And not once did we say, okay, we're going to do this for a certain number of reps. It was all about time. And one of the great things about time, there's a starting point and there's a stopping point. So you know how long your workouts are going to take. So if you have a very limited amount of time, say like 20 minutes or less, then you can get your workouts in very efficiently, especially when using something like the MAS at-home workout program, because all of your workouts are going to be done for time. So who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that is really focused on getting a certain number of reps in every single time they work out? Share this episode with them so they can learn more about why it may actually be more efficient to focus on using time for their sets of exercise as opposed to using reps. And while you're online, if you wouldn't mind, head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review. It helps people find this podcast when they're looking for information on exercise and when they're looking for information on health. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us that 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week. Hey there, it's Charlie again. One last thing. I want to let you in on a secret project that I've been working on for quite some time now. I am planning on releasing a book by the middle of summer 2021. But here's the thing, because I'm self-publishing this book, there's only going to be a limited number of copies available at any given time. So to learn more about this book and to be one of the first to find out when this book actually gets released, what I need you to do is go to exerciseforlifemethod.com. There you'll find out more information as well as some exclusive bonuses that I'm offering just for simply staying in the loop with what's going on with this book. So to learn more and claim your bonuses, go to exerciseforlifemethod.com, enter in your information, and you'll be automatically kept up to date. Learn all about the book and bonuses at exerciseforlifemethod.com.